blind and you thank them for it. That's a tragedy. That's a scam. That's why I'm saying this right now. Americans, you don't need a tariff. You need a revolution. For decades, your government and oligarchs ship your job to China, not for diplomacy, not for peace, but to exploit cheap labors. And in the process, they hollowed out your middle class, crushed your working class, and told you to be proud while they sold your future for profit. And yes, China made money, but we used it to build roads, lift millions out of poverty, fund healthcare, raise living standard. We reinvested in our people. My family also benefited from it. What did your oligarchs do? They bought yachts, private jets, mansions with golf course driveways. They manipulate the market, dodged tax, and poured billions into endless wars. And you get stagnated wages, crippling healthcare cost, cheap dopamine, debt, and flagged wave property made in China while they pick your pocket. For 40 years, both China and the United States benefit from the trade, the manufacturing, but only one of us use that wealth to build. This isn't China's fault. This is yours. You let this happen. You let the oligarchs feed your lies while they made you fat, poor, and addicted. Now they blame China for mess they made. I don't think so. I don't think you need another tariff. You need to wake up. You need to take your country back. I think you need a revolution.
China didn't cheat the U.S. The U.S. was cheated not by China, but by the ultra-rich. Because what happened was that when we had manufacturing here, and we had plants, we had all of this infrastructure that was working very well for us, China offered to do a lot of the stuff that we were doing there cheaper. The rich here wanted to get richer. Instead of reinvesting in the corporation that they were a part of, they decided to take those jobs and send them to China because China could do it cheaper. Because the United States rich didn't care about our futures. They just cared about their own bottom line and their next quarter. They were looking for profits. They were willing to jeopardize or forego the poor people's futures to do it. Because we're not here for the rich. They are here to gouge, hollow out, basically strip down the United States in any way, shape, or form for profit. The fact that the healthcare system here in the United States is a business, it's treated like such, and that's why we have Luigi Mangioni's and all of that kind of stuff happening, is proof of the fact that it is corporation and rich people first, everybody else a distant 78th. China didn't do anything to us. China took the rules that we created, used them to better themselves. Like most people, when you run a corporation, you take your profits and you put them back into the company. You put the profits that you make that help build the country, you put it back into the corporation and you help purify it. That's why the infrastructure in China is so much better than it was. They were one of the poorest countries for decades, and now they're one of the richest. They are leading in everything because they've reinvested in themselves, while we try to strip, hollow, basically chop shop the United States for the ultra-rich. What do you guys think? Leave a comment, repost.
What's Trump's master plan? It's to weaken the dollar, it's to bring industry back into the United States, and it's to reestablish the United States as the global trade superpower. Now, I'm not saying I agree with any of these things, but I think it's important to understand exactly what is the goal here, what is the incentive, and what are they trying to accomplish. Following the late 1960s, the United States has actually been deindustrializing, meaning that a lot of the industry, like factory workers and things like that, have been turning into imports, and the industry has actually moved outside of the United States. Today, the administration views deindustrialization actually as a national security risk, meaning that if a lot of production happens outside of the United States, then that's actually a risk for national security back at home. A lot of this theory can also be attributed to Stephen Mirren, who serves as the chairman to the Economic Council of Advisors to the Trump administration. He also used to be an advisor to the US Treasury and has a PhD from Harvard in economics. And he put together this paper called Restructuring the Global Trade System, which actually details a lot of this theory. Regarding the weakened dollar, there's actually a paradox called the Triffin Dilemma. And the Triffin Dilemma says that if you're a global reserve currency, such as the US dollar, then you actually suffer from overvaluation. So they're saying the US dollar is actually overvalued because the rest of the world is dependent on it and uses it as a reserve currency. You might have heard in the rhetoric from the administration that the United States is getting screwed on all these different deals, etc. In theory, the dollar being strong or overvalued actually isn't beneficial for United States global trade, and a weakened dollar will actually increase exports along with bringing industry back into the United States. So this is the idea in theory. So how is this actually being facilitated? Well, tariffs is one of the strategies that the administration is using. Again, I'm not saying I agree that this works, but understanding what the strategy is core here. And basically, if they can use the tariffs to renegotiate and re-emerge this new global trade system, then that puts the United States back on top and that re-established national security and industry within the United States. So really, this isn't just about policy. This is essentially economic warfare. And when the dust settles, we probably will see some type of global trade agreement across allies and across potential quote-unquote enemies of the United States.
The real loser in the US-China trade war isn't the US, but actually China. I've run a 7-figure import business for the past 18 years, and we sell wedding handkerchiefs. We monitor them in-house, and our margins are 90+%. But in the last couple months, everything has changed. The Trump tariffs hit again, this time with 100+% rates. And our costs basically doubled overnight. And we're not alone. Tons of American small businesses who depend on China are now stuck. Containers sitting at ports, orders frozen, margins wrecked. But here's what most people do not see. Chinese factories are actually getting crushed even worse. I've gotten desperate messages from longtime suppliers. Our machines aren't running. Please order. We may not be able to continue. Many customers canceled after the tariff. We cannot survive this. Some are even liquidating equipment. Others have shut down. And on TikTok, Chinese creators are filming ghost factories right now. Print shops with no boxes to make, laser cutter owners who plan to sell their equipment, and entire factory parks completely empty, no tenants, no new leases. So this isn't about politics anymore, it's about survival. One trader with 50 million plus in orders through 2026 said this very bluntly. Our profit margins are already razor thin, now we're on the floor. And here's what's happening right now. US importers are hitting pause on new Chinese orders. Chinese exports are nosediving, and factories that scaled up for Western demand are collapsing. And guess what? Even though it hurts us too as sellers, we seem to have more options. Small businesses like mine have already started shifting production to India, Mexico, parts of Europe, and even the United States for certain things. But China, it's not so easy to replace global demand. Now, Goldman Sachs says that these tariffs could hit China's GDP by 2.9% compared to only 1% for the US. So maybe these tariffs were never about the prices. Maybe they're about breaking China's factory dominance. So it's a risky game, but maybe it's strategic. Now, the million-dollar question is, how long can US small businesses cope with this? Because if we all go under before the plan works, who's actually winning here? Follow me if you want to see how I'm rerouting my supply chains, cutting costs, and keeping my business afloat.
Breaking, China just exposed the entire luxury fashion industry, and it's not looking good for the big brands. Turns out, those designer bags and shoes you've been paying thousands for, many of them are actually made in China, not Italy, not France. Same factories, same materials, same products, just with different labels slapped on. And now, China's done keeping quiet. With trade tensions rising, Chinese insiders are spilling the truth. The luxury items sold in high-end boutiques are often no different from what's sold on D-Gate, for a fraction of the price. People have literally risked their lives, gone into debt, or fought over these brands, thinking they were buying exclusivity. But the reality? It was mass-produced all along. So if you're dropping $3,000 on a purse, just know, it might be the same knockoff someone else got for $50. The only thing you're really paying for is the logo. Welcome to the trade war era, where the fake and the real are made in the same place. And now, the truth is out.
This is why this bag from our factory only costs you $1,000 USD.